Hi, Sharat.
Hello, hi Nandita.
How are
How are you
you?
doing?
I'm
Very
good.
good, very good.
Thank you for joining in. And
Thank you for having me over. It's an absolute honor.
so, the radio industry, always doing campaigns so local and yet so national, talking about issues, and I think it's one of the most. Of course, I love the medium a lot, and you know why? Because we work together. But
Yeah.
otherwise, as well, radio has a lot of power, right, to influence. How do you see that happening post COVID on hygiene, sanitation, water issues? And also radio stations are very competitive otherwise with each other, but they've all gone, got together for fighting this pandemic with the radio for all.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think that's the beauty of pandemic like COVID. While it has an ugly side and a negative side, the positive side is that we rise above our competitive instincts
Mhm.
and we come together very naturally. I think all the radio stations came together and did a campaign called Radio for India.
Mhm.
Uh, Although we were initiated it, it was something that we never said that it was started by us or any radio station tried to own it. We all were absolutely happy letting that campaign be generic to the category, and that's how the customers perceived it. They said it's a beautiful thing that all the radio stations have come together for the crisis. So that's been the nature of this pandemic. Um, how will it impact the radio station? I think the way it will impact every life. The RJs who are the face of the radio station, uh, they themselves are going through this entire churn. All the RJs are doing the shows live from home, something we could never imagine.
Yes, never
And
imagine.
yeah, so this is my studio. So I go live from this studio. This is my this is my bedroom, and all the RJs are doing this. The change has been so fundamental that when you speak about this, you are speaking out of experience. There is so much empathy to everything that's happening, to people, that it shows on the radio programming. The sensitivity has increased, the empathy has increased, just like any any human being. We, I think, are fortunate that we have a mic and there are a lot of people listening to us. So I think the radio stations are also realizing the responsibility that they carry. While we are a fun entertainment medium, um, it is also an extremely responsible medium. I think radio stations have been doing it, very, very responsibly for the last so many years. But I think now um, uh, they will become even more proactive and participate in this entire process of rebuilding, the country, the society, the city, and hygiene will play a big role in that.
Right.
I think, as some of the speakers earlier said, that the brands are going to be very active. I think the radio stations will also be very proactive. We already have planned a lot of programming around around COVID and hygiene. So I think it is going to be one of the central pillars of our programming strategy, of any radio station strategy for that matter.
Radio is very local, and it's very personal. And RJ has a direct connect with his or her audience. It's almost like a one-on-one while you might be talking to millions at a time. It's very local in terms of issues. So the pandemic also, hits every city and every geography differently. And I think radio has that power to bring about and talk and even give solutions at the local level while there's an umbrella uh, issue, which is hygiene or water going on. Would you like to quote some examples that from that come up from various
Yeah,
stations across India?
lots of examples. I think some of my radio stations in UP, they have been actively involved in providing necessity items to the listeners. So the listeners have been calling up, and a lot of that has happened.
Okay.
In Delhi, um, we've helped our listeners with the police passes. So
Mhm.
there were emergency cases. They reached out to us, and we requested Delhi police, UP police, Ghaziabad police, and we got them curfew passes issued. Um, there've also been instances in our Mumbai stations where the celebrities came on board and they pacified um, uh, you know uh, a listener who was worried whether he's COVID positive. We have doctors on call on the radio station. So if any of our listeners, they are feeling that they might have COVID, और हर किसी को इस वक्त लगता है कि खांसी आती है तो उसे लगता है यार COVID हो गया. So to pacify them and not put unnecessary strain on the healthcare infrastructure, which is under strain, we have top end doctors from hospitals giving live consultancy. So a slew of such initiatives happening across the country. I think it's been an explosion of creativity in the way uh, uh, radio stations have been responding. We did an initiative called 100 Hours, 100 Stars. We got 100 Bollywood stars for 100 hours to come and raise funds for the PMK for PMK fund. So and the most heartening and the heartwarming thing, Nandita, is the kind of emotions that have been outpouring for the doctors, for the health workers, for the supply chain warriors. The kind of emotion, the outpouring from our listeners has been really, really heartwarming. It's a very different India that you're getting to see. I sit out of Delhi. This is a city जहाँ पे गाड़ी पे डेंट लगते ही तो हॉकी निकल आती है. That city is changing. It's becoming more aware. It's starting to now talk about environment. It's thinking about कि यार हमने तो कुछ गलत किया है जो ये हुआ है. So I think that sensitivity, crores and crores of rupees spent on environmental literacy, on environmental advocacy, on hygiene. कुछ सबके सामने ये एक कोविड क्राइसिस ने वो सालों का काम दिनों में कर दिया. So yes, there has been a quantum jump in terms of consciousness and awareness in this space.
That is true. Also, the fact that empathy, empathy and praise for frontline workers. Radio stations and RJs, because it's such a personal medium, it's so local. It's about it's doctors, police, the police, sanitation workers. I think RJs are talking a lot more about empathy for people, which you never you might have ignored them at some point in time, and you suddenly realize that they are very important if you want the world to carry on right now.
हाँ, क्योंकि ये उनकी पर्सनल जर्नी भी ऐसी हो गई है, because they are feeling it themselves. You're spending time with your parents. Sometimes you're thinking कि यार maybe if something happens, then what? And then suddenly they realize how valuable your family is. So that emotion, that personal emotion that everyone is feeling, and when you're seeing those visuals of the pain, the agony, and sometimes the uncertainty, उसमें से positivity निकल के आ रही है, and that's the good thing. Empathy for fellow human beings, rising above your petty things कि यार appraisal होगा कि नहीं, क्या होगा, job cuts होंगे कि नहीं. People are showing a character, showing the character to rise above that. And सबसे बड़ी बात है, हमें ये एहसास हो रहा है, we are realizing that the strength of being from an Indian culture, it is a very, very connected culture. The fact that you have a family, that you have friends, is just getting amplified, and you're realizing the beauty of this, that you're not alone. You are able to handle these crises in a more robust way than some of the other countries. We have much more inner strength than other countries, and that, I think, in the long run, will hold us in good stead as a country. But yes, empathy, I think, is one of our biggest strengths. We might have forgotten it, but it's in our blood, so it's these moments that it comes out.
I always say that radio provides background music to everybody's life, right? It's radio equivalent to music. How do you see the music fraternity and celebrities, musicians coming together? There's so much happening in that space, and you might have a lot of messaging going around, but it's that one song which touches your heart, and that realization comes in, like what you're talking about. You want to quote some examples that have really affected people?
I think one song that stands out is Teri Mitti by B Prak, which is from Akshay's movie. I think the rendition that they did for the doctors, it I think I had tears in my eyes when I saw it and when I heard it. I think so many. I think that's one standout. And there've been so many amazing songs that people have come up as a tribute to the COVID warriors, songs of hope. There have been a multitude of concerts that have happened. So I think music definitely is a very strong way to communicate that emotion, that feeling of oneness, and and it's been and that's why it becomes easy. We enjoy our medium even more because while we do talk, most of our talking is taken care by the fantastic songs we are able to play along with our talk. So I think it's a joy to be an artist in these times because you are able to touch people, comfort people, and 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 add value to people's lives. So
Right. I also want to talk about integrations, like a lot of radio stations are doing 20-second RJ links for the 20 seconds that you spend on hand washing. It's messaging being integrated, with content and programming. Any examples of that?
yeah, because that is something that's been coming from our from our clients, talking about the fact that they feel that it is their corporate social responsibility to create awareness around it. So we quickly created solutions around it. We changed our clock, which is the flow of content. We reworked on that, and the jocks would come and remind after every 20 minutes that you need to do a hand wash. So these kind of very interesting innovations have happened. I was mentioning about doctor on call. So a hospital called us up and reached out to us and said that can we do something together? And we said let's do a doctor on. We opened up what we call as a radio OPD, so that people can call up and get their first checks done there. So a lot of such innovations have been happening. Social distancing of songs was a concept that came from Vivek, from my team. He created this entire thing of how do you, so between every song there would be a public interest messaging. So there is a distancing between songs. So amazing amount of creativity flowing, and the clients do appreciate that. Our listeners appreciate that, and it helps us handle the crisis with a lot more positivity.
Positivity. Just to come back to that if you could make that physical distancing, and because we want to be socially connected but physically distant, if that can
That's
be
right.
a new term that we can start using. But yes, like we said, integrations happening a lot. Music, musicians, so many concerts. How do you see this? Do you see that RJs are now going to sign off with stay safe, have you washed your hands, all those check boxes that are going to become kind of permanent sign-offs, or hellos and sign-ins?
Absolutely. I think just like Namaskar has become now the international way of greeting, I think jocks are signing off by staying there, by saying that stay safe, stay at home,
Repeating an awareness message again and again.
again and again.
Yeah.
While when the line we started off with when the COVID crisis started off was that agar कोरोना की कमर को है तोड़ना तो घर की चौखट मत छोड़ना. So these kind of lines which drive home the point that because radio is a medium of repetition, and so that has been happening across radio stations, and we will definitely do that. We are planning a big ticket campaign on hygiene. It's being fronted by my colleague at Fever called his name is Harsha. It's called Hindustan for Hygiene. So it's going to be a big ticket campaign which will focus on hygiene, and there will be a lot of advocacy around hygiene, and we would definitely try and play a significant role in creating awareness. And organizations like yours, the work that you guys have been doing, we would be actively reaching out to you guys and try and see how we can contribute. So for once, you will see media houses reaching out to NGOs rather than the NGOs chasing the media houses. I think ulti ganga bahegi, because we feel that our listeners will appreciate this, and our jobs would push us to do that. So I think that's something that will really change.
Thank you so much, Sharat. I think, it is collective collaboration, to take forward the conversation, the advocacy, and the action and behavior change on water sanitation and hygiene going forward, because COVID is not going. And even if it does, I think these conversations need to stay over here. We'll be wrapping up this session on content and campaigns. Thank you to all the speakers who joined us for this session today, and we hope that the conversation keeps going on water sanitation and hygiene. Stay safe, have a great weekend, and yes,
thank you, Nandita, you were a fantastic host. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone who joined us on this session. And in case you've missed it, it will be on WaterAid India's Facebook and LinkedIn handles. Also, it will be as a podcast on Spotify, and it will be on the Quint's YouTube channel. So in case you've missed this session live, you can tell people, and you can see the session on these channels. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.